Hello, thanks for joining us on the educational platform Education Unlimited as we continue our search into accounts. Today's presentation is on the Purchases Journal, also called the Purchases Book, and it is also called the Purchases Day Book. This is a book of prime or original entry in which all credit purchases of inventory or stock are entered before the entry is made in the purchases ledger. The total credit purchases is posted or transferred to the purchases account in the general ledger. This is the definition of the purchases journal. So, there are three clear steps in solving any question on the purchases journal. A. The first entry is to post to the purchases journal or purchases book. B. Post these entries that were posted in the purchases journal to the personal accounts in the purchases ledger. C. Transfer the total to the purchases account in the general ledger. Conversely, the debit side of this double entry set of transaction is to post to the personal accounts in the purchases ledger, and the credit side is to transfer the total credit purchases to the purchases account in the general ledger. Let us look at this example. Enter in the purchases journal the transactions below. Post the items to the relevant accounts in the purchases ledger and show the transfer in the purchases account of the general ledger. January 1, purchase goods on credit from R. Jean and Sons, $10,000. January 5, purchase goods on credit from Marshall Enterprise, $5,000. January 10, purchase goods on credit from Roberts and Sons, $3,000. January 16, purchase goods on credit from R. Jean and Sons, $8,000. January 25, purchase goods on credit from Marshall's Enterprise, $2,000. So, as we look at this example, we notice that there are five columns, one for date, one for details, also called particulars, one for invoice number, which we do not have in this example, one for folio, and a column for amount. So that the first transaction would read January 1, R. Jean and Sons. Folio would be purchases ledger PL and the amount $10,000. On January 5th, it would read Marshall Enterprise PL $5,000. January 10, Robertson Son under folio PL amount $3,000. January 16, Argene and Sons folio PL, which means purchases ledger, and under the amount column $8,000. And then the final transaction on January 25th, Marshall Enterprise under folio PL, meaning purchases ledger again, and the amount $2,000, making a total of $28,000, all transferred as a total in the general ledger in the purchases account at the end of the month, January 31. So the first step would be to look at the purchases ledger and the account Origin and Sons, which is a personal account, and we pull up the marker here to note that this side is the debit side of the account, and on this side it's the credit side of the account. So we are concerned here to put in the entries that were placed in the purchases journal so that on the credit side on January 1, 2023, the detailed columns would read purchases and it is coming from the purchases journal. So under folio we put PJ and the amount $10,000. For Arjun and Sons again on January 16, details purchases is coming from the purchases journal PJ and the amount $8,000. So we total for the month $18,000. On the debit side, January 31 at the end of the month, balance CD, meaning balance carried down the amount $18,000 to balance both sides of the account. And then at the first date of the month on the opposite side, look at the cursor, February 1, balance BD, meaning balance brought down $18,000. And here is the transaction for R. Jean and Sons account in the purchases ledger. So as we continue, still in the purchases ledger, this time we're looking at Marshall Enterprise accounts. So that on January 5th or January 5th, on the details purchases folio PJ, meaning coming from the purchases journal, the amount $5,000. On January 25th, purchases PJ for folio and the amount $2,000, making a total of $7,000 for the month. So that at the end of the month, January 31, on the debit side, we place balance CD, the amount $7,000 to balance both sides of the account. And then looking at the cursor here, the start of the other month on the credit side, we place February 1 balance BD, meaning balance brought down $7,000. This is the account for Marshall Enterprise account in the purchases ledger. So we're still in the purchases ledger. This time, the last account, last of the three accounts, Roberts and Sons account, one transaction, January 10, under detail, purchases, folio PJ, meaning coming from the purchases journal, the amount $3,000, so that the total for the month is $3,000. On the opposite side, on the debit side, we place balance CD, date January 31, and the amount $3,000 to balance both sides of the account. Then on February 1, on the credit side, balance BD $3,000. So the final transaction. Now we post in the general ledger under the purchases account on the debit side at the end of the month the total credit purchases as we pull the marker here, and the folio would be PJ, meaning it's coming from the purchases journal, and the amount, the total that was in the purchases journal was $28,000. Here, very simple, we follow these three steps in solving a simple purchases journal or purchases book transaction.